Last year, the pursuit of the Hooters Cup provided the fireworks that makes it one of the premier short track series in America. And today, for many, a chance to redeem the misfortunes of 1996. It's time to chase a dream that will be realized by only one, the one to be called a champion. Late model stock car racing are here tonight at USA International Speedway in Lakeland, Florida for the start of the 1997 Hooters Cup Series. This first race, the Hooterade 200. And I have to tell you, there's all kinds of action on tap for tonight. I'm Rick DeBrule. I'll be reporting from the infield today, from the pits, and all the stories we have to tell, and there are a lot. Start way in the back of the pack. We can tell you about the fact that last year's champion, Bill Bigley Jr., didn't qualify that well. But you know, his specialty last year was consistency. But he said all winter long, you think about one thing. He didn't win a race last year. That's what he wants really badly. But he was consistent. That was important. That's the one thing that the man in this car didn't have. Mike Garvey. Yes, he won 2 races. He was fast, but he wasn't able to finish all the races. In fact, 8 races he didn't finish. And I guess the question to you, Mike, is what do you do now? How do you change that? How do you finish those races?
Well, Rick, we worked all the off season on just the little things, the wiring, running the wires. We built new cars. We just paid a lot of attention to detail. Last year, we took the team over halfway through the year, and we didn't have a lot of time to do that. And consequently, we fell out of some races. But I tell you, we've got a good group of guys with the Coors backing, Port City chassis. I think the finishes are going to come this year.
So Mike Garvey is ready. The question is, what is he going to do with the rest of the field? I got to tell you, there's a lot of guys there anxious to take it away from him. Not the least of which, of course, is Dick Anderson, the master of short tracks, nearly 900 short track victories to his name. He didn't qualify well, but he says he never does. He said he doesn't have to. What really matters is where he is at the end of the race. It's time to get this race underway, and we're going to go to those most famous words in motor racing.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
Well, the cars have fired to life here at USA International Speedway. Tonight, it's the Hooterade 200, bringing you the Hooters Cup Series from Lakeland, Florida. I'm Ray Dunlap, along with Larry Rice, and Rick DeBrule will be down in the pits. I'll tell you what, Larry, right there is one of the bad boys of short track racing, Mr. Gary Ballou.
Yes, Gary Ballou has been kind of gotten that reputation, but I'm going to tell you, he comes to win, and he tries very hard every time he gets in that race car.
Well, 40 cars are on the line tonight, and they'll all be shooting for a great big purse here as the first event of 1997 kicks off in the short track series. Taking a look now at your starting grid, Mike Garvey on the pole with a speed of 130.296 miles an hour. Dwayne Dempsey on the outside of row 1. Tony Walls in car number 81, and Freddie Query will make up row number 2. Scott Wimmer and Jimmy Cope will make up row number 3. And we move back to the 4th row now and see it's Rich Bickle in the terminal trucking entry number 45 and Bobby Gill in car number 5.
Yes, there's a great field of cars here as we take a look at everybody else. Billy Bigley Jr. down in 13th. I'm sure he's not real happy with that, but it's a long race, a long way to go.
Taking a look now as we move from 23rd down to 36th position. All of these cars made it into the race on their qualifying time, and there were 4 provisionals posted. We see there from 37th down to 40. The last car there, number 181, Tom Sheffield. He comes from all the way out in Texas.
I'll tell you what, this field is heavily loaded in the southeast, of course, which is where a lot of this series is run, and from the upper Midwest, the Michigan, Wisconsin area. So for him to come back here, he's the only one, I think, from Texas that made this long haul. But these guys right now are really anticipating this race. There's a lot of nervousness inside there because they've worked on these things, they polished them, they put all the bolts together. They just want to go racing now.
Well, in 1997, we'll bring you 10 events throughout the year from the Hooters Cup Late Model Series. And we see there Dick Westfall, the longtime flagman in this division, getting things ready to go. A look at your onboard camera now. Mike Garvey in car number 40. You're looking directly at the race car driver. We'll see some of the actions that he has going on through the night. And here in Billy Bigley's car, a look out the front end of the race car. There's quite a few cars ahead of Bigley. He's going to have to be very careful on the start.
Yeah, there's 12 of them up there. You ought to get a good shot from inside his race car, and a lot of traffic up there, as well as Garvey starting up front. He starts first, so you're not going to see as much traffic as the green flag flies.
Down the front straightaway comes Mike Garvey, and what a hole shot he got there, Larry. A great start for Garvey in the Coors Light entry.
He got a terrific shot coming off that corner. He's already pulled out into a 3 or 4 car length lead down the back straightaway as Dempsey falls in the line right behind him, and already he's getting a little trouble from Query back there.
Well, the front 3 cars stretch it out single file right now. Oh, and trouble coming off of turn number 4. Car number 81 slides sideways, and that's Tony Walls from Albertville, Alabama. Trouble right off the start on the very first lap here at Lakeland.
Yeah, he started back in 3rd position. He got very high coming off, and as you can see back there, he gets real high coming off the corner, just loses it, backs into the wall, and down on the inside, 71, Harold Fair comes together with Hal Goodson. They both got gathered up, and they both got damaged, and that's going to be bad luck for them.
And you know what? This grass is very wet on the infield here. We had a rain delay earlier this afternoon, and these cars are having trouble just getting out of the grass.
Yeah, you can see right there, the tires are spinning, and they're not going very far, very fast. But we're going to go back and have a complete restart as they try to get this stuff gathered up.
Okay, those drivers will try to get back on the racetrack, and we'll be back with more of the Hooterade 200 from USA International Speedway in a moment. Today's running of the Hooterade 200 is brought to you in part by Hooters Restaurants, delightfully tacky yet unrefined, and by Jackaroo Barbie Sauce. If you've got regular barbecue sauce, you ain't got Jack. And by Naturally Fresh Pure Spring Mountain Water, delightfully refreshing. And the cars have realigned themselves here as we get ready to go back to racing in the Hooterade 200. We just got started in the race there before Tony Walls put it sideways coming off of turn number 2 and pulled out the first yellow of the day.
It'll be interesting to see if Garvey can get as good a jump as he did the last time. He kind of waited, just jumped everybody coming off the corner, and it looks like he's going to do the same thing this time as the green flag falls, and he does get about a car length lead, and Dempsey falls right in behind him as he did last time.
38 cars still in the running here, and you're right, Mike Garvey with a good jump. The first 3 cars going single file down the back straightaway.
Yes, he got a nice lead. Oh, look at Freddie Query. He's already making a move, trying to get into second, but it cost him. He had to fall back and get out, but the yellow flag has come out as everybody's slow is coming off of 4.
We've got a car up against the wall over there. It looks like car number 55, which is Doug Stevens from Forest Park, Georgia. And he's got the driver's side up against the wall there. It looks like maybe he spun out, and I think he was by himself, Larry.
Yeah, it looked like it was. We see Harold Fair Jr. once again heading for the pit area, still trying to repair some of the damage from the first accident that he got into.
So Harold Fair from Romulus, Michigan brings number 71 to the pit road. The crew is taking a look at the damage on the front end there. Let's go down to Rick DeBrule.
Well, Hal Goodson has actually gotten out of his car to check and help work on the damage to the front end of his car. They don't think there's any suspension damage. They think it's just damage to the structure underneath. You can say they've ripped off the hood. They're still trying to get back in this race.
Well, Hal Goodson had 2 good finishes last year, 4th both times in the Naturally Fresh 250 and the Red Dog 250 here at Lakeland.
Welcome back to the Hooterade 200. Let's take a quick look at this racetrack. It has 14-degree banking in the corners. It's a very symmetrical racetrack, and it was completely refurbished in 1995 for that season. A beautiful racetrack now.
It really is, Larry. And just a few years ago, this place was just nothing but a bunch of weeds, and they've done a great job of getting this track back into beautiful looking shape. Mike Garvey again takes the restart as we'll get back underway here, and again the front 3 cars go single file.
Well, the 3rd time was charm for him as he once again pulled out into almost exactly the same kind of a lead going down the back straightaway as the first 3 cars pretty much follow in order as they have before.
Take a look there. We got the number 5 car, which is on the inside. Bobby Gill trying to make a move in the traffic right there. Great shot from the speedy camera down the front straightaway as this field starts to get a handle on what these cars are going to do after they get those tires heated up.
Well, you know, this is an important part of the race. You know, you want to go fast, you want to keep the leaders in sight, although you don't want to get too carried away and cause problems. We've already seen 2 restarts. These guys don't want to be the reason for the 3rd restart or the 3rd yellow flag of the day already.
Well, they've had plenty of time to practice here too, Larry, but this racetrack, as you said, so symmetrical. Once they get the cars dialed in, they really pretty much should respond throughout most of the night the same way.
Yeah, until they have trouble with the tires. If there is tire trouble later on, they get their tires too hot, they get to running the car a little too sideways, they pretty well got a handle on things. It looks like Freddie Query, though, is the one guy out there right now that wants to make a move. He's not content to sit back there as Garvey pulls away to a few car length lead.
Larry, your leader, Mike Garvey, is from Georgia. The second place car, Dwayne Dempsey, comes from Florida, and Freddie Query from Mooresville, North Carolina.
Well, all of these guys, of course, from the Southeast, but there's a lot of drivers from all over. This series is attracting drivers, more and more drivers from around the country, because it is a very high-paying purse this year, very high-paying point fund at the end of the year, so you're going to get a lot of guys, a lot of diversity as the year goes along. But these guys that are here today, they all have eyes on that championship, believe me.
Absolutely, and this series will go to a lot of different racetracks throughout the season. And this track they're on today is a 3/4 mile racetrack.
It's a very fast racetrack, 160-mile-an-hour straightaway speed, so a lot of these drivers running on this kind of a racetrack and at these speeds for the very first time, as Query really, back there in that white car in third position, really wanting to make a move on Dempsey, but just can't quite find the right spot without getting himself in trouble.
The number 68 car of Matt Kenseth back there mixing it up a little bit with Bobby Gill. We'll try to get a shot of those guys coming up in a bit. Some good battles going on here as the cars, again, just now getting used to what the cars will feel like throughout the middle stages of this race.
Well, Mike Garvey, of course, he was the most popular driver last year, and this is one of the reasons. He led a lot of races. He did very well. He won a lot of races. He was not as consistent as Ricky Brule told us earlier, and that's one of the things he's going to try to do this year, starting out with this very first outing.
Chasing down a championship throughout the season is kind of hard to think about that with this being the very first race of the season, but it's got to be on the drivers' minds.
Well, it's in the back of every one of their minds without a doubt, because every championship is won by winning race number 1 and then race number 2 and then race number 3. So you take it race by race, but always with that championship in the back of your mind.
But in 1996, we saw Jeff Gordon win 11 times in NASCAR Winston Cup racing and not take home the championship. Consistency does become a key factor.
Well, obviously, last year's champion, Billy Bigley, that's why he won. He did not win a race in the same fashion, but he did come home the champion because he was there all the time in every race.
Taking a look there again at car number 70, Dwayne Dempsey. He's got a good run going on, but getting a lot of pressure from Freddie Query as those second, third, and fourth place cars are getting tightened up.
Yes, you can see Query down on the inside trying to make a move. He doesn't want to get too far down. You can see that it rained and it's still wet inside that yellow line, so you have to be careful. But Query's down on the inside now, Dempsey. He's trying to move him out just a little bit. Dempsey does finally just give way enough to give him room enough to get inside of him, and he takes over second spot.
So Query makes the move on Dempsey, and Scott Wimmer from Wausau, Wisconsin, looking inside also. He's going to try to make the move now on Dwayne Dempsey.
This young guy's a rookie, and he's doing one heck of a job up there in fourth spot.
So Freddie Query is really dialed in as he's making a lot of advances on the racetrack.
Alex Query is not only the crew chief for Freddie, he's also his son. Let's talk about how important this race is for your dad.
No way to tell you how important this race is. First year in 4 years we've been on our own. We're doing all we can to try and race this Hooters series. We're going to need some help. We can make it the first 3 or 4 races. Just doing everything we can. We're running good right now, and I'm happy.
You need a good finish to get a sponsor.
We got to have great finishes everywhere we go right now.
How many races can you guys last without a sponsor?
Positively talking, probably 3 or 4 right now. If everything works out, 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 at the most.
They're anxious for this one to be a good finish.
Well, of course, everybody's anxious to have a good finish, but I'm telling you, if you don't have a sponsor and you need the money, you've got a lot more motivation.
Well, I'll tell you what, Larry, if there's a way to get a sponsor, it's to do just what he's doing, running up front like that, because the front 10 cars in tonight's starting order all had lots of graphics on the race car, but Freddie Query doesn't have much to say on that number 8.
Well, Freddie Query's been obviously the most aggressive driver out there so far in this race. He's been the only guy that really kind of nudge his nose in there and move guys over just a little bit as we see another battle on back in the field.
Number 68, that's Matt Kenseth, and he's racing side by side with Billy Bigley Jr. in the Royal Purple number 28. So those cars having a good battle, and we'll take you back and look through the field a little bit later here in the race. Here's your top 5 in the running order right now. It's Garvey, Query, Dempsey, Wimmer, and Gill. It's the USA Racing Hooters Cup coming to you from USA International Speedway in Lakeland, Florida. A couple of cars there with a bit of damage, Larry, who are just about to get in front of the leader, Mike Garvey.
Yeah, that's Harold Fair Jr. He was involved in that very first mishap we had on the first start. Obviously, he's still on the racetrack, but running at some disadvantage with that banged up front end.
From the very start of this race, Larry, Mike Garvey has had clear racetrack in front of him because he has been so fast, but now he starts to encounter lap traffic. I wonder if that will affect the way his race car is running. Look at this. Freddie Query is closed right up onto the back bumper of the course light entry.
Fred Query is really hot after him right now. He really closed up here in the last 2 or 3 laps. It looks to me like he wants to get in front, wants to do some leading in this race. But you're right, the lap traffic is going to be the biggest opportunity for Query to make his moves. The man who gets through the traffic the best, obviously, is going to come out in the lead in the end because there are 4 or 5 cars right in front of him.
A big line of traffic now that Freddie Query and the number 40 of Garvey are going to have to start picking and choosing when to pass. And, of course, that can make a big difference in the outcome, too, of whether you catch him in the front of the turn, the center of the turn, or going down the straightaway.
Well, of course, Freddie Query's in the best position. The guy in second usually has the best spot because once the guy in front makes a commitment to go in above or below a guy, he has to go the other way. And if he gets lucky, he comes out first. If not, he's still running second. He's no worse off.
Well, the car they just went by was the number 52 of Roger Black, and now they're moving up on Bob Newling. Newling from Kannapolis, North Carolina, number 43, and it appears that Garvey's going to dispose of him just as easily.
Well, Garvey so far has not made a mistake in traffic. He's gone right around the outside of him, and it doesn't appear to be slowing him down. That race car of his seems to be working just as well up in that second groove as it is down in the bottom.
Larry, what's it like whenever you've got a race car that's this strong this early in the race? What's your mindset?
Well, the race cars are really the easiest to drive when they're working that well, but take a look at this battle for 8th and 9th. Bigley goes right on around Kinseth, moves up 1 more spot. He's really running well right now as well.
His mindset's just right, exactly that. Number 40, Garvey, now moving up again on some lap traffic as one car goes to the inside there. The blue and white car with some problems. That car blowing smoke out of the exhaust, and that's the number 27. And it's Derek Gilchrist in the Fairfield Inn Chevrolet, a big problem on his race car.
Well, you can see he's not only got engine trouble, that thing backfiring and doing all sorts of things, but he's run into something on the racetrack as well. The front end all banged up.
Well, Derek Gilchrist started back in 28th position, but he's got a lot of problems. Larry, the graphic we just had up said first caution, and it actually is the first competition caution.
Exactly. The other 2 were restarts, so this is the first caution of the race. They've done a nice job. Everybody fell into line. They did a nice job running that first part of the race, but they're going to have to get that car off of the racetrack before we can go back to green flag racing.
So the yellow flag is out for the first time as Mike Garvey continues to be your leader. Garvey from Suwanee, Georgia, in the Coors Light number 40, but he's got a lot of pressure from Freddie Query in car number 8. Query has got to be happy with the way that race car is running today.
He's extremely happy. You know, it didn't seem to me that he was getting through the traffic quite as well as Garvey. He couldn't run that outside line quite as well, but boy, on the bottom of the racetrack, when you got to stick those left side tires under that yellow line, that race car of his was really working well.
We're at the 3/4 mile USA International Speedway in Lakeland, Florida, and you see the Fairfield Inn sponsored number 27 of Derek Gilchrist going to the pit area, and he has hit something pretty hard with that front end.
Yes, he certainly has. That thing's banged up, and I think really his major problem, though, is the engine and not so much the crash, because he could still run with that thing bent up just that small amount.
Mike Garvey, your leader. Query second. Dempsey, Scott Wimmer, and Bobby Gill continue to be the top 5. And welcome back to the Hooterade 200 at USA International Speedway. Ray Dunlap along with Larry Rice and Rick DeBrule bringing you the racing action today. Mike Garvey has been your leader right from the front, and only 2 cars have retired today. Tom Sheffield from Coppers Grove, Texas, and we just saw Derek Gilchrist from Raleigh, North Carolina going to the pit area in car number 27.
Yeah, we've had a couple of other guys who've gotten in incidents, but they've gotten their cars repaired back on the racetrack as we take a look at last year's series point standings.
Well, Billy Bigley Jr. with 3,090 points, just a few points separating him from Freddie Query. Moving back now from 6th through 10th, we see Jimmy Cope. Mario Goslin, a former champion in this series, finished 9th last year in the point standings, and he won the last race here at USA International Speedway. Going back onto the racetrack now, Bob Newling, who's made a pit stop in the number 43. Back to green flag racing action on lap 28.
And these restarts, much like in NASCAR, the lap cars on the inside, the guys are on the same lap on the outside, so you can see there are only about 3 lap cars. Everybody else still very much in contention to win this race. As look at Freddie Query. Right away, he gets right on the back end and challenges.
Putting some pressure on Mike Garvey there is Query, and here he comes with a run off of turn number 4. He takes a look to the inside. but not able to get it done that time.
Well, I think Freddie Query's going to like not having the traffic. His race car seems to be working much better right on the very bottom of the road. You can see right there, Garvey got just a little bit loose. He's giving him an opportunity to get some straightaway speed going into the next corner, and Query takes advantage of it, goes right on by him.
Query makes the move as he passes Garvey. Now, Garvey has been out front all throughout the race, but now Freddie Query will be listed as your new leader.
He certainly is. He did a nice job. Garvey made one slight error. He got the back end out just a little bit. He lost just enough RPM to lose that long end straightaway speed. Query took great advantage of it, went right down to the inside and went by. This racetrack is much better to his liking because that race car of his is working very well right on the bottom of the racetrack.
Well, Scott Wimmer in number 25 is putting some pressure on Dwayne Dempsey in the car number 70, and here comes Billy Bigley moving up there. There is some good racing going on as Bobby Gill in the car number 5 also hot in the middle of that pack.
Well, I'll tell you what, great racing all the way back there. That young Wimmer, he's a young guy. He was the 96 champion up at the Wisconsin Dells, but he's making some noise down here on this big racetrack.
That's one of the great things about this series, Larry, is there's drivers in this division coming from all different forms of racing.
Yeah, a lot of guys who come from short tracks, this is a whole new experience for them. But boy, when you can come in and be as strong as Wimmer is right now, then you've done your homework, you've got your car prepared. But right now, look at Query. It looks like he not only was the most aggressive, but he's the fastest race car out there at this point.
Freddie Query putting on a show for the fans today as we get a good look at that speed shot coming down. And I'm wondering what happened to Mike Garvey's car, because you did see it there twitch coming off at turn number 2, and it appears that the car is starting to go away. Either that or Query's just getting that much better.
Well, and it also might be that his car is better on the long runs and not the short run. The tires cool off under yellow. They might just be cooler, and it might take him 3 or 4 laps to get the tires warmed up, and once they do, then he might start gaining back. We don't know that at this point, but we'll know very shortly.
Well, you're looking there at Bobby Gill in car number 5 as he goes by, and he has made a good charge as he started 8th today and has moved all the way up to 3rd there. Dempsey in the number 70 moved back to 4th, and Rich Bickle in the terminal trucking entry is 5th. Taking a look now at your top 10.
Yeah, Scott Wimmer in 6th, Darrell Brown down in 9th, Billy Bigley up in 8th. So, you know, some of these guys have made some moves as Bigley started, I know, in 13th.
Something you don't see in a lot of stock car racing is cars with 3 numbers on them. Mike Franklin there in the car number 172 from Homestead, Florida. That's got to be a nightmare to score.
Yeah, I would think so. Query, though, seems to be just kind of holding his own right now. He pulled out into about a 4 or 5 car length lead. Garvey kind of hanging on at that kind of distance. So maybe as this segment goes on and they get farther into it, the tires might make the difference in how the race cars handle and how well these two guys relate to each other.
Well, there begins to be a bit of a spread here, Larry, between 1st and 2nd, 2nd and 3rd. Here's a good battle, though, on the racetrack as Bickle now has caught up to the back of number 70, Dwayne Dempsey from St. Petersburg, Florida. Those first 3 cars have really stretched it out a bit, and here goes Bickle making a charge.
Bickle has been gaining on him, and right now he's trying to do the same thing that Query did earlier. He's trying to get that little run off the corner, get that straightaway speed as Dempsey gets up just a little bit too high, but not quite enough for Bickle to get under him right there.
1997 will be a very interesting year for the driver of car number 45, Rich Bickle. Imagine this pressure, Larry. A guy calls you on the telephone and says, you want to drive a race car? You're probably going to say, yeah, but what happens when it's Darrell Waltrip?
Yeah, what happens when it's Darrell Waltrip? You probably say, yeah, because he knows more about it than I do, so I want to drive that thing.
It's a great opportunity for Rich Bickle as he'll be in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series throughout the season trying to chase down that championship, and you'll see him an awful lot here on ESPN2 running in the USA Hooters Cup Series.
Right now, Freddie Query seems to be the guy that's got things handled. But you can see that he's moved up on the racetrack. The racetrack is changing. More and more oil out there, more and more rubber. And these guys are changing their lines a little bit. Query ran right around the yellow line earlier. Now then he's moved up into the middle of the racetrack through the middle of the corner.
It appears to me that Dwayne Dempsey has a very fast race car, but no, a little bit of contact there as Bickle comes right up on the rear end, and he touches Dempsey a little bit and says, hey, buddy, don't forget I'm back here. Here goes Bickle. See if he can make a challenge coming off of turn 2 and down the back straightaway. Just not enough horsepower.
Not quite enough. The way they're driving the racetrack, they're running right in on the yellow line going in. They're floating up, kind of diamonding the corner, then back right on the yellow line coming off. When they're right in that middle and that car width off, that's where Bickle tries to stick his nose in there. If he ever gets up far enough to make him give him room, he's going to have that position.
Well, it appears that Bill Clemens Jr. is a bit off the pace in car number 15. This group of cars just flashed by him on the front straightaway, and that's unusual to see Clemens with a car that slow, so evidently a technical problem for Bill Clemens.
Yeah, you know, Scott Wimmer running back there, he's the third car in that little trio. He's doing a very nice job. He's not really making any challenges as once again, Bickle tries to sneak under, just can't quite get up far enough to force him to move over.
And you got to remember, this is a 200-lap race. So Bickle has to use a bit of a patience here, but maybe not, and here he comes. No contact that time off at turn 4. Bickle says, forget the patience, I'm going to the front.
Boy, when it's that close, you wonder how there cannot be contact sometimes. Those guys show a lot of ability and a lot of restraint in some areas, because it'd be very easy just to give him a little boot right there.
And a lot of times on a quarter-mile racetrack, you'll see that contact cause a spin out. But here, these guys are very conscious of the speed, 130 miles an hour in qualifying, and if there is contact there, that could cause a lot of damage to a race car.
Obviously, they're quite concerned and quite aware. And you're right, 160 mile an hour straightaway speeds, 130 mile an hour average, so you have to be careful. It's not like running a 60 or 70 mile an hour short quarter mile racetrack. Is right there, he gets in there. I'm not too sure that he did make some contact.
Rich Bickle in the number 45. Terminal Trucking is a sponsorship on that. And let me tell you what, folks, if you're a late model racing fan, you've seen this guy win a lot down at the Snowball Derby in Pensacola, Florida. Rich Bickle's name all over that racetrack. And that track is a half mile, and it's a very fast racetrack, just as it is here at USA.
Yes, and if I'm Wimmer sitting back there in third place, I'm kind of thinking, man, these two guys look like they could cause each other all kinds of trouble. I may get 2 spots here at once.
The top 5 on the screen right now, and we'll be back to Lakeland, Florida with more Hooters Cup racing in a moment. It's the United Speed Alliance and the Hooters Cup Series from Lakeland, Florida. Larry, we ought to let the viewers know that throughout the season, they're going to be seeing a couple of different divisions of racing.
Yes, they are. They're going to see the Pro Cup as well as the Hooters Cup cars, so we're going to have a lot of action right here for them all summer long.
The two divisions really very different. The cars you're watching today, the Hooters Cup Series, are much lighter race cars, 2,800 pounds, and they're built on a tube frame, where you'll see the Pro Cup Series are much like the NASCAR Winston Cup division, and the cars look very, very different. You'll notice the difference.
No doubt about it. The late model cars are much different looking than the other cars in these series. But take a look right now at Bickle working on Dwayne Dempsey. He has been trying everything to get around him without just bumping him out of the way, and so far Dempsey's just fast enough and got the line just good enough that he holds him back there.
And he's doing a very nice job, because about 7 of the last 10 laps, Rich Bickle's giving him a little nudge coming off of turn 4.
It's got to make you a little bit nervous. Meanwhile, Freddie Query up front, 25 years a school teacher. Right now, he's putting all these guys in a classroom situation, showing them how it's done.
Well, let me tell you what, if you're going to learn, you want to learn from some of the veterans in this series, and he's certainly putting on a show for him today in an unsponsored car.
Well, a limited budget, it really makes you feel good. I know from experience, when you go out with somebody and you know you don't have the money that everybody else has, and you can beat them, it really gives you that deep down great feeling.
The first race of 1997, and here comes Bickle to make a move now on the number 70. Is he going to get it done down the front straightaway? He has the horsepower, but had to back off again as Dempsey continues to hold him off. He is really doing a nice job.
They're both doing a terrific job, because that could be an accident on almost every corner of every lap, the way that they're running. Oh, and speaking of running, look at this. The 30 car full is spinning, and already there's a bunch of cars in front of him that he's spun to miss.
4 or 5 cars are piled up on the front straightaway here. The number 112 is Gary Ballou, and it looks to me like that could be Jody Ridley.
Yeah, I think Dick Anderson is in there.
Anderson is involved. We were just talking about the school teachers, Larry, and here are some of the most experienced guys on the racetrack piled up on the front straightaway. You're looking from the inboard camera of Billy Bigley.
Yes, Bigley's actually stopped on the racetrack trying to find a one-lane groove through there as he does kind of an S curve trying to get through. Let's take another look. As we see right there, Fultz is spinning, but it's already happened in front of him. The racetrack is blocked. He's just trying to get stopped as Ridley and Anderson, they've already come to a stop up against the wall.
Well, the number 02 car, the blue car that slid in there also, was Jamie James. He's a motorcycle rider from the AMA series, and look at this list of all the drivers involved. Nevin Jenkins in there, Chad Dawkin also involved, so a lot of cars piled up there on the front straightaway.
Yeah, I think, you know, at least several of those cars are going to have to go to the pit area and be worked on. Some of them didn't have much contact, but you can see right there that Ballou's car, Jody Ridley's car, they obviously are going to have some major damage and have to go inside.
And that's Jody Ridley there in the Felpro outfit that's looking on, and he is very, very disappointed. And here come the front-running cars going to the pit area there. We see all of the top cars, Freddie Query in the number 8, Garvey in the 40. We see the 5 car of Gill, the 45 car. They are all going to the pits.
Everybody heading for the pits, and you can tell the rain that we had earlier because everybody's running through that water as they head for the pit area.
Oh boy, look at the damage up front on Gary Ballou's number 112.
Yeah, they're all taking stock, seeing if there's any way they can get going again, as each and every one of them looking at his own car and the competition.
So the pit action is very intense right now. We see that Mike Garvey and Freddie Query have already gotten out. There goes Rich Bickle in the number 45. Wimmer is out of the pits there, and a very, very slow pit stop for number 70, Dwayne Dempsey.
You can see these 3 guys all standing around talking over who started what and who did what, and evidently they're not blaming each other, they're not yelling at each other. That's good news.
Haven't seen any fists flying down there, so they must not be too angry. Evidently some sort of a racing accident. Oh, a tire is loose on pit road there, and a couple of drivers doing a good job to make evasive action there. We saw Jimmy Cope in the number 1 Miller Beer Ford make a really nice move to get out of the way.
And the official made a nice move to run over there and get the tire out of the way after that was over.
Well, we've had 54 laps. That's 40.5 miles here from Lakeland, Florida, and we'll be back with more racing in just a moment. Welcome back to the Hooterade 200 at USA International Speedway. Down in the pit area right now, Rick DeBrule is standing by with a very unhappy Jody Ridley.
All right, Jody, let's talk about what happened out there.
Well, really, I can't tell you. We're just taking it easy coming up through there and running really good. And something happened up there. Somebody said Sanders come out of the throttle. I don't know if that's the case. No, you know, you don't think it's the veterans that's going to stack up, but that's what happened. 3 veterans in front of me got me. And we all just ran over one another. Somebody stopped up there, and, you know, it just a chain reaction. So I don't know. I really don't know what caused it.
Several incidents his first race. Is this just that first race jitters of the season?
Well, I don't think that should have been. I really just, you know, I'll have to find out what happened, but, you know, I really don't know. You know, that, you at least expect it to happen where it did, I'll be honest with you.
Well, hopefully the veterans will last longer next time, Jody.
So some of the veterans certainly disappointed, and Auburndale, Florida's Derek Kelly has taken the lead here, and we'll be back in just a moment with more racing from Lakeland.
Just want to update you on the pit stop situation. While we were down talking with some of the drivers involved in the accident, Mike Garvey came in. He took on 2 tires and about half a can of fuel. Meanwhile, Freddie Query took 4 tires and a full can of fuel. But as Freddie Query was pulling out, he had to dodge one of the other crew members from another team, and he ran into a tire. Fortunately, they don't look like any serious damage. But the big question now comes fuel strategy. Garvey only took on half a can. They think they can make it. Query's team, on the other hand, is now sure he can make it the rest of the way without a stop.
Well, thank you, Rick. We're ready to go back to racing here, Larry, on lap 67. This last caution was 13 laps long, as we had a lot of debris to clean off the front straightaway.
It's going to be interesting strategy as the 6th car of Derek Kelly did not make a pit stop. He's counting on another yellow flag somewhere down the line so that he can go in and get a pit stop. But he really didn't have as much to lose as the guys up front. They had to take their pit stop now because now they know they can go the rest of the way, or at least they think they can. He had to try to get up front. He had a big position move to make up, and he's gained a lot of spots by staying on the racetrack.
Well, you're absolutely right, Larry, and there's a couple other drivers out there that had the exact same strategy. Number 11, Tim Felver, Jamie James. He was in that accident a little bit ago, but he stayed on the racetrack, and we know that track position can be a very, very important thing.
Johnny Sapp is Derek Kelly's crew chief. You guys stayed out. You intend to stay out for a long time.
Yeah, we're going to at least go to probably 150 laps in the race. We come here and test it, and we think we can go at least 150 laps with tires and take good times.
Is he saying much about the car?
Yeah, he said the car's a little tight right now, but he says he's all right, and we're pulling away from him, so I hope we're all right.
So, Larry, now there's a couple of strategies going on the racetrack. Track position has become very, very important, but we have to go back and talk about this fuel mileage thing because some of these drivers have taken different strategies. Mike Garvey, who led the first 29 laps of this race, and then his car got a little bit loose, only took on about half a fuel tank.
Well, it's an interesting strategy because they might be going for a light load at the end. You know, if you don't take on as much fuel, it might be a 50 or 60-pound weight advantage. That might be the thing they're shooting for, but they also might be taking the chance that they might not be able to make it to the end of the race.
Well, traffic, again, is becoming a big factor out there on the racetrack right now. You're taking a look at number 28, Billy Bigley, and he is caught right up to the back of Matt Kenseth there, coming down the front straightaway. So some good racing all the way around the track. And again, that lap traffic comes into play.
Right, and Kenseth and Bigley, they've been battling each other pretty much this whole race in one form or another, as has Bickle right in front of him. He's battling up there too, and these guys really have been running nose to tail from the very start of the race because they started back in the midfield.
Well, you're right, Larry. That's where they started, but they've made a good charge back to the front. Number 45, Bickle, is running 6th. Matt Kenseth and number 68 is running 7th, and Billy Bigley is running 8th, hoping to take away that spot. Let's talk to Rick DeBrule and find out how that pit stop went for Billy Bigley Jr.
Well, Tim Courtney, you say Bill Bigley really liked that last pit stop.
Yeah, we did pretty good. We beat a couple cars out. We just stayed out there for a long session. The car got tighter and tighter. We come in with the leaders, got 4 new tires of gas.
Is he saying much now about the car?
Yeah, he says it's real comfortable right now. We opened the stagger up a little bit on this set, so he should be comfortable.
Well, thank you, Rick. Back to racing action here on the 3/4 mile racetrack, and it is hot and heavy all the way around. You're looking there at the number 31 of Ronnie Burkett. And again, Larry, this is one of the guys that decided to stay out on the racetrack.
Well, these guys didn't really have a whole lot to lose. They were running in mid-pack. They knew it was a gamble. They stayed out to gain track position. Now they're leading. Should they get real lucky and everybody else have to make another pit stop and they have to go in and make a pit stop as well, they get a chance of moving way up in the field. As it was, you know, they had no chance of getting around that many cars under green flag, I don't think.
Well, the car that's running right behind the number 31 is the 18 of Ronnie Sanders from Fayetteville, Georgia. And we heard earlier when Jody Ridley said he thought he was the car that started the accident. That must not be the case because Sanders' car doesn't look bad at all. No damage to the number 18.
Well, obviously, we can't see any damage, but he has a lap car. He's not running in 3rd position as it appeared in that shot. So he does have, he is not running quite as fast as everybody else out there right now.
Well, the number 6 car on the racetrack, Derek Kelly, is your leader. And the big question is, when will the other front-running cars that had been up front, guys like Mike Garvey, Dwayne Dempsey, and Freddie Query, catch up to those guys who are now posted as the leader?
Well, you're taking a look right there at Freddie Query as he's working pretty hard to move back through the field. He knows that he's going to have to get some spots when they make their pit stops. But meantime, he's got some guys in front of him that are on the same lap and have made a pit stop, as we see right there.
Well, we were talking about Billy Bigley. Will he make that position and move into 7th? He's done that in the number 28. Kenseth back in the number 68. And you're right, Freddie Query has closed right up to the back bumper. And here he comes. Query now taking a look to the inside of Matt Kenseth from Wisconsin.
He appears to be just as aggressive at this part of the race as he was in the first part. You can see right there, got that car a little loose coming off the corner, got the back end out, but it was still fast enough to make that move. Wow. Look at that. That's a good old-fashioned slide job, and here comes Kenseth right back on the inside.
Larry, this isn't a dirt track. What's Query doing?
Well, I'll tell you what, he went in there real hard. Kenseth had a good shot to get back around him, got in under him, but Query just had too much momentum coming off that corner, and now he's pulled out into a 4 or 5 car length lead.
I got to believe that Matt Kenseth got a call on the radio that said Freddie Query's looking to the inside, and he didn't believe he would ever make that move that deep into turn 1.
Well, he did make an awful deep move, and he pulled it off very clean, and no contact was made, and still had the momentum to pull off the corner. That's the surprising thing.
Well, here comes the first leader of the race, Mike Garvey, in car number 40, and right behind him, Rich Bickle in the number 45, and they continue to charge through the field as they go around the number 02 there of Jamie James, the former motorcycle racer. So a lot of cars making challenges through the field now. And here comes Bickle. He takes a look at Garvey.
Bickle has been using this kind of a move the whole race long. He's put that nose in under a guy when he gets right in the middle of the corner. Hasn't been able to pull it off yet on Garvey, but that's the same thing he did earlier in the race, and it worked very well then. But he was very patient all the time he used that move.
They are moving up right now on car number 72. That's Brian Ross from Plymouth, Indiana. And Ross with a lot of experience at Salem Speedway on the high banks. And we'll go to that racetrack later this season. You'll see racing from many, many different tracks across the country in this USA Hooters Cup Series. Number 45 of Bickle continuing to put some pressure on Mike Garvey.
Yeah, Garvey feels the pressure right now. both of them know there's a lot of race to go. They want to get through the lap traffic without having any problems, and that's what they're working on right now.
Well, we talked about that fuel mileage a little bit earlier. Mike Garvey not taking on quite as much fuel as Freddie Query, but I'll tell you what, by watching Query go through the pack, I don't think there's any difference in these two race cars.
Now, right now, Freddie Query does seem to have a very quick race car. Bickle, I think, is a little bit faster than Garvey right now. He just doesn't want to take any chances, do anything silly. A long way to go, so he's going to follow him. If the opportunity presents itself, he's going to go by. If not, he's going to just hang in there. Query, on the other hand, I think he's in a bigger hurry than that.
He's going to go to the front and show him it can be done, right? Well, once again, it's Mike Garvey in the 40, Rich Bickle in 45. Right behind them, Freddie Query. But up front is car number 6, Derek Kelly, who is being posted as the leader here at Lakeland, Florida. It's the USA International Speedway. It's a 3/4 mile racetrack, and it is a doozy of a race for the very first event of 1997 in the USA Hooters Cup Series.
And you can tell how competitive this field is. Even the lap cars, they're running so quick that it's hard for these guys to get around them. Some of these lap cars up there, they're not really gaining on them. They must have got a bad break, a bad pit stop, who knows. For whatever reason, they're not really running that much slower because Garvey right now having a heck of a time getting around lap traffic.
Right, and Garvey is taking a look again at Brian Ross, but just like you said, Ross with a very, very fast race car. Here comes Freddie Query. He is going to take a look at the lap traffic and start to pick his way and see if he can make a move that'll do better than Bickle or Garvey as they try to work on Brian Ross.
Harold Fair Jr. down there with that damaged race car, hurt on the very initial start of the race, still out there motoring around, trying to get points, trying to make money.
Well, it's a great race here at the USA International Speedway. Ray Dunlap along with Larry Rice and Rick DeBrule, and we're going to take a break. Back to Lakeland in just a moment. Continuing under green here at USA International Speedway, it's the Hooterade 200, and there is some great racing all the way around the track as Rich Bickle is now taking a look at car number 40, Mike Garvey, and again, the lap traffic comes into play.
It sure does. Freddie Query right there behind them, and I'll tell you, all three of these guys battling hard right now, but meanwhile, Derek Kelly has got a comfortable lead out in front of everybody.
Kelly has got to be happy with the way the fortunes of this race have turned for him. After that major crash on the front straightaway, Kelly decided to stay on the racetrack, and he again is posted the leader, Derek Kelly from Auburndale, Florida, in car number 6. But some really good battles going on now between Bickle and Query. Again, Freddie Query, who was up front for a big portion of this race today, took the lead away from Mike Garvey on lap 29. But now they're all having trouble getting around Brian Ross.
Yeah, Brian Ross, I think, is holding up the pack. I think Garvey's afraid to move to the outside. He's afraid if he does, he might lose that spot. Finally, he says, can't wait any longer, got to go out there and give it a try. And it looked pretty easy once he took the chance.
We've seen a lot of the passing today, Larry, on this racetrack going to the inside. I'm wondering what the groove is like out there on the outside.
Well, I think that the race car is set up well. It's not that bad out there. You saw Garvey, once he moved out there, as the yellow flag is out. So we've got a problem on the racetrack.
Caution on the speedway. We'll see what we can find out for you. Car number 14 is the cause of it. Larry Raines from Cummings, Georgia, evidently has spun over in turn number 1, and that brings out the yellow for the 3rd time this afternoon here at Lakeland.
Yes, he's come to a rest up there. They're going to have to go up there and get him restarted, pushed back down into the pit area. That's a tough break for him. He's been running fairly well, even though back further in the pack.
Well, one of the hard chargers in today's Hooterade 200 is Mike Garvey from Swanee, Georgia. He's the driver of the Coors Light Monte Carlo.
For driver Mike Garvey and his number 40 Coors Light Chevrolet, this offseason has been a time to reflect. First on his 2 wins last year and winning the award as most popular driver. All gratifying to be sure. But now the focus is singular, to win the 97 Hooters Cup Points Championship.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're after. You know, we finished 2nd and 4th, so we're going at it full bore this year. We're doing everything we can to win the championship.
Well, we're at your shop, and can you show us around a little bit?
Sure.
Let's, first of all, let's go to the engine department.
Sure, I'd be glad to.
It's like a Winston Cup shop here, right? The engine department is where now? Is it?
We're walking over to it right now.
Is this it right here?
This is the engine department right here. So right underneath that hood is the engine. We have basically everything in 4,000 square feet that a Winston Cup team puts in, say, 25,000 square feet. The only difference we don't do, the Cup has motor building rooms, transmission building rooms, rear end building rooms. Everything is separated. We do everything here in this one area except build the motors. Graham Racing Engines in Ohio built their motors, and they send them to us, and we just hook them up and put them in. But the rest of the cars are built from the ground up right here. This is Brian Hastings. He is our crew chief. He is the guy that makes the car go fast. Anytime you see the Coors Light silver bullet up front is because he has made it fast.
This is kind of the Ray Evernham of the Hooters series?
That's my Ray Evernham right here. That's
it looks a lot like Ray?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
This is the team owner here. the team cheerleader. She keeps us all going, keeps everything going good, and keeps all of our morale up. And she's really a big help with everything. This is my wife, Lisa.
The first time you went home to Dad and said that you were going out with a race car driver, what did he say?
It wasn't my dad, it was my mother.
Oh,
She was not real happy.
A what?
Yeah, what?
That's what she said. So.
Hey, Mike, thanks a lot, man.
Thanks for coming.
Good luck this year to
We'll see you later.
And we hope you're the champion. And
we need this back by the first race, though.
You think so? You may never see me again.
Well, our very own Steve Johnson bringing you that nice feature on a very nice Mike Garvey, the driver of the Coors Light Monte Carlo.
I think I won his job. He gets to drive the cars. You know, that looks pretty neat to me.
Well, no problem about that. You know, these race cars are smaller than the Winston Cup. They have smaller motors than the Winston Cup, but the dreams that the drivers have are just as big.
Well, the dreams are very big. This is going to be a very big series and a very good training ground. There's going to be a lot of drivers come from this, be chosen for the Busch Series and the Truck Series and all the other things.
Drivers from 11 states competing today here at the Lakeland International Speedway. We'll be back with more Hooters Cup racing in just a moment. Welcome back to our continuing coverage on ESPN2 of the Hooterade 200, coming to you from Lakeland, Florida. Getting ready to go back to racing as the field has lined up here. Car number 6 on the point, Derek Kelly from Auburndale, Florida. And here we go, the green flag is back out.
Yes, once again, a NASCAR-type restart with the lap cars on the inside. As you can see, several of those cars being lapped now. But the big story here is Derek Kelly, who has not made a pit stop, still leading this race, and he did not go in on that yellow flag either. So he's taking a very big chance by not making a pit stop under that yellow flag.
Well, earlier, Rick DeBrule told us after talking to his crew chief, they thought they could go 150 laps, so we'll keep our eye on car number 6. A good bunch of racing back in the middle of the pack there, but right now, Mike Garvey has worked his way through the traffic and has his eyes set now on car number 6, Derek Kelly.
Well, he's been up front all day long and running pretty hard, but Kelly right now, you know, with a lighter fuel load, that is going to be some advantage to him right now, and that might be why he is the fastest race car out there. When he goes in, puts in any fuel, he will not have to take on a full fuel load either, so he can go in with just get a few gallons of fuel, however much he thinks he needs, and then get back on the racetrack.
So Mike Garvey and Freddie Query in car number 8 and Rich Bickle have all made their way around Brian Ross there. He's in the red and yellow car, and here comes Query. He's making a move on Rich Bickle. Takes a look to the inside as they head down to turn number 1, and a little bumping and grinding.
Boy, he got in there. When he went around Bickle, he got into the back of him just enough to loosen him up. He had to get out of the throttle, Bickle did, and when he got out of the throttle, Query took advantage, went right on around. It was a nice move. It wasn't much of a touch, but what it did was it messed Bickle up, and you can see he also got passed by a lap car there.
You know, Larry, we're talking about Rich Bickle going to work this year for Darrell Waltrip, and what a great opportunity for him. But most folks may not know about his short track successes. He has been just about everywhere all around this country running short tracks. I know he ran that Big Ten series at Concord Speedway for a long time. He's got a lot of experience in these type of race cars.
He's been around a long, long time, but right now Freddie Query is the man on the move. He's been really the most aggressive race car driver we've seen out here all day long, and it's no different right now. Right now he's giving Garvey all he wants. He's right on his tail, trying to find that little way around that he found earlier in the day. Right on the bottom, again, right on the bottom. That's where he likes to run this racetrack.
And these two cars have now stretched it out as Bickle is caught behind Brian Ross and not able to hang with Freddie Query. Here goes Query taking a look at Garvey and the number 40 car. I think you're right. Freddie Query is a man on a mission here. He has got a very fast race car.
Well, he certainly does. It's been fast from the very start. It's no different right now. He can run that race car. You can see he can pinch it coming off the corner, runs it really loose, slides the back end a little bit. Oh, he gets down on the inside right now. Wow! Gives Garvey a little bit of I don't know whether he touched him that hard or not, but it sure got Garvey out of shape, got him out of the groove. And once you get into the marbles, once you get into the loose stuff, it's hard to keep control. Garvey did a great job just not getting into the fence.
Garvey did not crash that race car. Take a look at it on the replay here. Inside of turn number 1 goes Freddie Query, and to the outside goes Mike Garvey. Saves the race car, keeps it off the wall. Very, very nice job for this young driver.
Well, we're told that one of Query's hobbies is shooting pool. Right there, it looked like he was using Garvey for an 8-ball a little bit, didn't it?
Well, he sure made a good move earlier on Matt Kenseth, and now he just does it to Mike Garvey. So Freddie Query finding the way around on the inside. But while those two were mixing it up, it brought open a big space between Derek Kelly and Freddie Query. So now Query will have to get dialed back in, run that very nice executed line to try to catch the car number 6.
Yes, and meanwhile, back here, when Garvey lost all those spots, he's back there running with Bobby Gill. And Gill's right on his tail trying to get around him.
Gill from Dalton, Georgia in car number 5. The 5 car and the 45 car look very similar. And Rich Bickles in the 45 just ahead of Garvey, and Bobby Gill in car number 5 right behind the number 40.
Yeah, it was a break for Bickle. He got around him. He had an opportunity to get around Garvey while he did go so high on the racetrack. But again, I think Garvey did a terrific job just keeping that race car out of the fence, because even, you know, it was not much of a touch. But it doesn't take much of a touch to get that race car a little loose out of those marbles. And once you get up there, the race car just slides like crazy. And he got it woed and turned before he got clear to the fence.
Well, we're looking there at Mike Garvey and also Bobby Gill, both of those drivers, former winners here at Lakeland, Florida.
Yeah, that 3-car pack battling each other. Garvey looks like he's a little more aggressive right now. He's looking on the inside of Bickles. They went around that corner. He's trying to run the very bottom of the racetrack.
We'll be back to Lakeland, Florida with more of the Hooterade 200 in just a moment. Derek Kelly continues to be your leader. And welcome back to the Hooterade 200. We're under a caution once again as Steve Sauve from Saginaw, Michigan has brought out the yellow. His car just burst into flames going down the back straightaway. The good news, though, Larry, is that Steve is out of the race car and doesn't appear to be too much damage.
Now, look at this. Dick Anderson back on the racetrack after sustaining very bad damage earlier in the race. He's out there to get those all-needed points.
Absolutely. Here's your race analysis at 122 laps. Mike Garvey was on the pole. We've had 4 cautions, and we've run 32 laps under yellow. Hopefully we'll get right back under. The lights are off on the pace truck now, so we're ready to go racing again. And you're right, Larry. Those points will add up throughout the season, and these guys, as they chase down that championship, every time you can get back into a race, it's a good move.
Yes, I'm very curious to what Derek Kelly's strategy is. We've had 2 yellow flags here after the halfway mark, and he has not gone in to make a pit stop yet. He can't go the whole race. They said he could only run 150 laps, so he's really stretching the limit by staying out there under this yellow.
We would expect to see him go to the pit area in that greased Lightning number 6 here, probably the next time the yellow is out. On the inside of the number 6 car is the 15 of Bill Clemens Jr., of course, a lap down at this point, and we're ready to go back to green flag racing. Freddie Query is lined up right behind car number 6 with Rich Bickle in the back, and a really good start for Derek Kelly as they come down the front straightaway, but he's not going to get away from Freddie Query very easily.
Well, I tell you what, Freddie Query has really looked strong this whole race long. Right now, Derek Kelly, though, really running a little bit faster, but he still has that pit stop to make. I don't know whether he can get enough of a lead. He's certainly not going to get enough of a lead to make a green flag stop, and he's already passed up 2 yellow. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out.
Don't count out Mike Garvey in car number 40, racing right back there with Rich Bickle as the field comes through the speed shot there. A beautiful facility again here at Lakeland, Florida, the USA International Raceway. Glad to have you with us on the broadcast tonight. Rick DeBrule down covering the pit area. I'm Ray Dunlap along with Larry Rice, and this guy is really putting on a show up front.
Yes, this is a 3/4 mile racetrack. It's a lot bigger racetrack than a lot of these guys have run on before. Everybody seems to be handling it very well, though. It's a quick racetrack, 160 mile an hour straightaway speed, so not nearly as many yellows as we might have anticipated.
And Larry, I think a lot of that is due to just how fast this racetrack is. The front couple of cars have moved out, but look at this pack. Coming off of turn 4, we see Roger Black in the 52 and Mike Hovis there in car number 39.
Along with him, Burkett and Goslin battling for position back there with some of those other lap cars, and Dwayne Dempsey in the yellow car back there also right in the thick of things.
Well, the 39 car makes a move to the outside of Roger Black, and I think he just let him go. Maybe he waved him by. The cars were a little bit faster.
Well, these two guys up front are definitely faster, as Freddie Query is really trying to gather up Kelly, but Kelly's still running very quick right now and just can't catch him. It looks like they've slowed down.
Yeah, the yellow flag is out here, Larry. We see that a car number 86 there has looped it, and that's Marty Lindley from Greenville, South Carolina. Loops at the Kirby entry over in turn number 4.
Of course, that's Butch Lindley's son, who's everybody that's heard of stock car racing, short track racing, heard of him. And it looks like he made a little contact with the wall. He's got that left front fender rubbing on the tire, and he's going to have to come in and change that because that tire is not going to last too long.
So Marty Lindley brings out the caution, and for sure he will go to the pit area there. The crew will try to pull out the fender off that Goodyear there, and he is going to make his way down pit road right now.
Yeah, you know, he's going to get in there and get that done as quickly as possible. Try to get back out without losing a lap. You can see that he's passing all these guys, trying to get in there very fast.
So as Lindley heads to the pit area, we'll take a look at our running order right there, and we're going to take a short break. We'll come back to Florida in a moment. And welcome back to the Hooterade 200. The cars are on the racetrack now, but before we got started today, there was a slight rain delay here at Lakeland. As the crews got ready, you're looking now at Billy Bigley's crew. He was last year's Hooters Cup champion.
It's a neat feeling being a champion because we've run another series and finished third in the points, the best we've done. It's neat because you can take in, people are going to look up to us in 97 as the champion from 96. I mean, that's a neat feeling. We've never had that as the whole team. None of us have ever experienced that. But in doing that, I mean, it's a feeling that probably will last a lifetime because it'll be the first championship. Hopefully it's not the last.
And here you see a live shot of Billy Bigley Jr. in the pit area. This is his second pit stop for the day. He came in and got some new tires, evidently thinking that's going to help him make up some sort of a difference on the racetrack.
The car has been off just a little bit, but we're comparing that to the front-running cars of Freddie Query and Mike Garvey, not to the rest of the field. Bigley has been pretty strong, but not a front-runner.
Well, you know, he's been strong enough to be up front, but not strong enough to be one of the first 2 or 3 guys. You know, just like you said, very good, but just not quite as good as the top 2 or 3 guys.
Well, it matters where you finish at the end of the day, not where you're running in the middle. And we're just about to go back to racing here as the field starts to line up. And here comes Bigley back down the pit road a second time.
Well, you got to believe that there's got to be more now than just a tire change problem right now, because you wouldn't make 2 pit stops under the same yellow. Well, you only let you know he's going to take on the other 2 tires. He didn't want to lose the lap. Came in and changed 2 tires. He's going to come in now, change the other 2. So it was a planned strategy that they had.
So right side tires for the first pit stop, left side tires for the second pit stop, and Bigley will now go back onto the racetrack as we get ready to go racing again in today's Hooterade 200.
Probably he was already the last car on the lead lap, so it didn't make a big difference whether he came in. He thought, well, as long as we've got new tires, we might as well have them all do.
Maybe he'll lose 1 or 2 positions, but he'll be on that outside line and ready to go racing again, and this time with 4 fresh tires on car number 28.
Well, it's first race of the year. We'll see now how much difference that is going to make as the green flag comes out, and as he has always before, Derek Kelly pulls right out into the lead.
But Larry, what is Derek Kelly doing? He's out there again without making a pit stop, and here goes Freddie Query. Query takes the move to the inside, and right behind him comes car number 5 of Bobby Gill.
Well, obviously he's got some sort of a problem, as there was 3 cars just flew by him going down that back straightaway. Either he misfired, you know, he had a plug go bad on the yellow flag, or, you know, I don't know exactly what did happen, but obviously something went bad with the race car because he pulled out, everybody just flew by him.
Tough break for Derek Kelly, who has led a big portion of our race today, but here comes the other 2 very tough cars, Freddie Query and Bobby Gill, and don't count out Mike Garvey, who's back there in 3rd spot.
Well, Bobby Gill, you know, he's been running good also. Oh, look at this. Again, way on the outside, running very, very slow. Everybody trying to miss him, actually. He's running so slow, everybody having to pull down to the inside to get around him. Tough break for him because he's been running so well.
A major, major problem for Auburndale, Florida's Derek Kelly, as he's been the leader of this race. But right when we went back to green after that last caution, a very major problem. We'll see if we can get an update from the pits here shortly on what happened.
Yes, Bobby Gill, like I started to say, he's been running fast, he's been running up front, but he's never been in a position to challenge for the lead until now. All of a sudden, he's right behind Freddie Query, and he's running at least as fast as Freddie Query. Uh-oh, Bickle's got trouble.
Rich Bickle from Edgerton, Wisconsin, is on the way to the pit area in the terminal trucking entry. And here's the Greased Lightning number 6 sitting on the pit road. So Derek Kelly, they're taking on fuel back there, and I'm not sure if they're going to change tires. It appears the yellow flag has come out.
Yes, the yellow flag is out. It looks like Gill had gotten around Query, but the yellow flag is out. That'll probably revert back, but everybody has slowed down.
Well, the indication we're getting right now, Larry, is that the caution is out for debris on the racetrack, but I'm not exactly sure where that's at. It very well may have come from Rich Bickle's number 45 terminal trucking entry as he went into the pits there very abruptly. We see Freddie Query now in car number 8 is slowing down, and I believe he's waiting for the pace car to pick up the field, unless maybe he has a problem.
Well, there was some jostling down there on that yellow. We saw he and Gill, one in front of the other, and he was waiting on them now. He's probably going to get back into the lead, but he had to wait on that pace car to catch back up to him.
Come on, Larry, that's not a pace car. That's a pace truck out in front of the field. Well, there's the Discount Auto Parts number 6 of Derek Kelly. He just came into the pit area, and let's go down to Rick DeBrule and get an update.
Well, let's talk about the best laid plans of mice and men. Derek Kelly was doing so well. The plan was for him to stay out as long as he possibly could. Well, guess what? He stayed out a little too long. It wasn't an engine problem. He ran out of gas. They had to bring him in, get him back out, make another stop so he could try and stay up on the lead lap, but it's put a big dent in his day.
So car number 6, Derek Kelly, tried to stretch it just a little bit too far, Larry.
He certainly did, and sometimes it just doesn't pay off.
Freddie Query is your leader here at Lakeland, Florida. We'll be back with more of the Hooterade 200 in just a moment. Don't go away. Well, 65 laps short of the finish. Rich Bickle went to the garage area. Rick DeBrule, what's happening with the driver of car 45?
We hadn't expected to see you here, Rich Bickle. What's wrong?
Well, it seems like every time we put on these motors in our car, they seem to blow up. It's unfortunate. Last year we had a great motor with Joe Arrington stuff in the Dodge. We switched the stuff to Chevrolets, and it seems like every time we put one of these motors in this car, it blows up. So we're going to find us a new motor builder, and I'll guarantee it won't blow up every time like this does.
Now, one other thing, there's some action going on between car 8, car 45, what's going on with car 8?
Well, since I'm throwing everybody in the river here, the car 8, it looks like he can't pass anybody unless he goes down through the bottom of the grass and slides into you and body slams you, but his day will be coming. That's a normal deal with him.
Well, he's pretty unhappy with everybody. His crew, his motors, the other guys on the racetrack. I just don't think he's very happy with anybody.
Well, another guy that's probably not too happy is Derek Kelly there in the Greased Lightning number 6, leaving pit road now after running out of fuel. Tough break for this young driver.
Yeah, it certainly has. They had a strategy. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it certainly backfired as they had to go into pits, whatever the problem was, and it just didn't work out. They really, I thought, had a good strategy by staying out after that first yellow, but boy, after the second, third, you had this kind of wonder.
Well, Larry, when you're on a big racetrack like this here at Lakeland, a 3/4 mile track, you've got to go in for fuel at some time, and when you pick that point may mean whether or not you can win a race on a big track.
Well, you gamble. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. As we take a look down here, that's the number 43 car who's made a pit stop at Bob Newling.
A couple of cars on pit road now as we're getting ready to go back to green flag racing. Again, car number 6, Derek Kelly, on his way to the pit area there. This time I think they've said, look, we've already screwed up. Let's make sure we have fresh tires on the race car and go out there and continue to race. We'll learn something for next time and try to be back up front again.
Yeah, they've been in there about 3 or 4 times, and obviously when you pit that many times in a race like this, even under the yellow, it's not going to bode very well for you, and you're going to have a long way to go once the green flag drops.
10 races in 1997 from the Hooters Cup Series. We'll also see the Pro Cup Series later on here on ESPN2 as the number 6 car of Derek Kelly heading back out into the race. We'll see if we can get this thing restarted for you.
Well, this has been rather long yellow as we're trying to get this thing restarted. And while we're under the yellow, let's take a look at the way the points are rewarded here.
First place pays 185 points. Now, there are a number of bonus points throughout the race. You get 5 points for leading laps. You get 5 points for leading the most laps. Also, there's appearance and grid placement. And the hard charger, I like that. So the guy who started furthest back and advances through the field also gets 5 points.
Well, I think even Rich Bickle would have to agree that Query's probably going to get that so far in this race because he's certainly been charging all night long.
We're going to get underway again here with the Hooterade 200. Freddie Query out front in car number 8, and I'll tell you what, if he continues to race the way we've seen him so far in this event, he's going to be very, very hard to beat.
Well, he certainly is. And Bobby Gill, even though he hasn't been real noisy, we haven't heard a lot about him. He's been quietly moving up. He's now running in second, and he appeared to be very, very fast under that last green. Of course, Garvey right behind him. He's been fast all day long.
And back out on the racetrack once again, Larry, is the number 21 Dodge of Dick Anderson, out there chasing down those very, very precious points. This year there'll be $500,000 in the Miller Lite Winners Points Championship, and every point you get all season long is very important.
And that's why you see everybody fixing the race cars, going back out there. No matter how bad they look, they want to get out there and pick up those precious points.
Here's a look at the rundown. Query is your leader. Gill runs second. Garvey, Kenseth, and Ross. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the USA International Speedway and the Hooterade 200. Ray Dunlap, Larry Rice, and Rick DeBrule bringing you the first race of 1997. We're going to try to determine this afternoon, Larry, who's going to be the first winner.
Yes, we are, and I'll tell you what, right now, Freddie Query has the inside track. He's been pretty much the fastest guy out there all night long, and he doesn't seem to be slowing up any. Every time there's a yellow, he pulls right back out. Bobby Gill, I think he's got other ideas.
Well, Bobby Gill currently runs in second. A couple of other drivers that would like to get their cars up there include Garvey, Kenseth, and Ross, who are also running in the top 5.
And you can see that they're getting the 1 to go signal, so they're getting ready to go next time around the racetrack.
So Dick Westfall has given him the 1 to go. And look here, car number 16 of Hal Goodson's missing quite a few body parts. I think Rick DeBrule caught up with his car a bit earlier.
Think of all the work that goes into making this car. You design an aerodynamic body, you work so hard to make it look nice, you paint it just right, and then I tell you, one accident, and suddenly it just becomes part of the junkyard file. And all those aerodynamic tricks are out the window.
Well, and the aerodynamics definitely play a part in this particular racetrack. You're talking about a 3/4 mile racetrack, speeds of 160 miles an hour. You've got to get through the air. Obviously, some of these guys are going to have a lot of trouble doing that at this point in the race.
Especially Hal Goodson and Dick Anderson when they have the entire front end of the race car missing. Anderson is on the inside, but he is a lap down. Freddie Query on the outside in car number 8. Bobby Gill right up his bumper. The green flag is back out. Here we go racing.
And Freddie Query, once again, gets a nice start, pulls out in front of everybody else. Looks like the first 3 cars, all 3 got a good restart on that start, though.
Still a great field of race cars on the track. 36 cars qualified in this race by their time, 4 provisionals. So there were 40 starters and only 10 cars have fallen out of the race. Looking at your rundown right there, you see Ronnie Burkett has moved all the way up to 6. Good run for Jimmy Cope and the Miller Beer number 1 following in there in 7.
And Gosselin has already moved up into 8. So these guys are all still in the hunt, even though it looks like, oh, look at this. Bobby Gill on the inside of Freddie Query. This is the strongest he's been all day.
So Bobby Gill with some newfound hope here, making a challenge on Query, going down into turn number 3. Here they come off of turn 4, side by side, a little bit of contact.
Boy, oh boy, Freddie Query is not going to give up easy. They did make contact. It looked like Gill was definitely the loser as he got a little bit squirrely coming off the corner and had to back out of the throttle to not get in any more trouble.
And I'll tell you what, Larry, there's got to be a catbird seat here of Mike Garvey watching these two bang each other around. He's running in third and keeping his sights set. If these two screw up, then he can move right to the front.
Exactly, that's what he's thinking. You know, I don't want to get in this because if they take each other out, I'm definitely the beneficiary and I'm going to win this race. Right now, though, Gill must have got one good jump at him. It doesn't look like he's mounting that same effort again.
Bobby Gill is having a great run there in car number 5. He's from Dalton, Georgia. He's got terminal trucking on the side of that car, and he is giving Freddie Query all he can take.
Well, this is definitely the strongest that he's been all night long. He gets after him pretty strong. He had to fall back. Now that it looks like he's mounting a little bit of a charge again, I don't know, though. It's going to be tough. Query's been fast all night.
Let's find out what's going on with Bobby Gill down to the pit area with Rick DeBrule.
Mark Lamphere, what's Bobby Gill saying about this car? He's battling right now for the lead.
We've had a good car all night. He hasn't really said a whole lot about it. It's been pretty good. He's just been putting laps on the board. Now we're going to try and go to the front and lead it the rest of the way.
You had a difficult pit stop. What happened?
We bought a set of bad pit sockets, and every lug nut on every wheel jammed.
So you just don't want to change any more tires today?
We put our old stuff back on. We're all set.
So, Larry, we've seen some very interesting gas strategies today, and now we're hearing about some different tire management strategies.
Well, it wasn't really a strategy. His lug nuts all jammed, so he had to put his old tires back on. Now, that means his tires aren't as new as Freddie Query's. It doesn't seem to be bothering him, though. Evidently, the Goodyears repeat very well. They don't wear out. I don't know, but he seems to be just as fast as anybody up in that front group right now.
Well, as you saw in the graphic, he started 8th and moved up to 2nd, so a good run today for Bobby Gill in car number 5 from Dalton, Georgia. But I'll tell you what, Freddie Query so far has been the man to beat just about all day long.
Well, I like Gill's strategy, though. They said they were quiet the first part of the race. They were just trying to keep up. They didn't want to try to pass too many cars, do anything silly. Now they were going to go for it. We've already seen him make that effort once. It didn't quite succeed, so I think before long we're going to see it again.
Take a look right there, car number 72. That's Brian Ross, and he's being hounded by Ronnie Burkett from Longwood, Florida. Some good racing going on from 6th all the way back to 15th place on the racetrack right now.
Yeah, Brian Ross has been kind of quiet all day, too, but he's also another one of these guys that's done it quietly, but done a very efficient job all race long. Burkett was as far up as second, when he made that pit stop, he had to go farther back in the field. As right there, he looked like he was going to get to the inside. Could not do it, as Matt Kenseth runs right in front of both of those guys.
Well, later on in the season, we'll go to Salem Speedway in Indiana. It's a half-mile with high bank, and Brian Ross may be the favorite in that particular race. He's run a lot of 200 lappers there, and tire management certainly can play in there. But look at this, Burkett makes a move on him, kind of dove in there in turn number 4, but Ross takes her right down to the yellow line.
Boy, you just don't know what kind of judgment it takes on a driver's part not to make contact when something like that happens. You're literally inches away, and those drivers can't see the front of those cars. I mean, they're slope-nosed. You can't see how close you are, but it's just a feel. They've run these cars for so long, they know how long that thing is almost by feel rather than by seeing.
Some very, very heads-up driving by the guys out there on the racetrack tonight. Again, Ronnie Burkett there in 31 trying to chase down Brian Ross, and right behind them is Dick Anderson in the Mopar entry, but that car certainly not running up to speed, as again we talked about the aerodynamics play a big part on a racetrack that's this large.
Yes, and quite honestly, he's doing very well to keep up with those guys with the aerodynamics as messed up as they are in that car. He's not losing a lot of ground, as we see right here. He's stayed 2 or 3 laps pretty close to them.
Harold Fair Jr. in the number 71 to the inside, and also the 55 car of Doug Stevens from Forest Park, Georgia. Both of those cars had some damage earlier, and they're doing a nice job of getting out of the way while these faster cars go by on the outside.
And you just saw Burkett get up in those marbles. He got real loose as they went around that lap traffic. Almost lost it, but saved it, got it back down. But he lost a few car lengths in the process.
At this point, Bobby Gill has got to be saying to himself, I wonder if my tires can hold out in comparison to Freddie Query's. It's got to be frustrating to be a driver and know that you have older tires this late in the race.
Well, there's no time to worry about that, really. You've got to do the best you can. You've got to run as hard as you can. He knows that the race is winding down. So I think he's pushing his car as much as he can push. Right now, though, Freddie Query, as he has much of the evening, seems to have things well in hand.
Hope you're enjoying the racing tonight from the Hooterade 200 at Lakeland, Florida at the USA International Speedway. Again, we'll be with you all season long here on ESPN2. Tonight it has been the Freddie Query show most of the evening long, but I'll tell you what, Mike Garvey in car number 40 and Bobby Gill still have him in the sights.
They still have him in sights. They're still running hard. Query, you know, they're hoping he gets in lap traffic. He gets messed up. We saw a while ago, Burkett got a little bit high. He lost a lot of ground when that happened. If he happens to make that mistake, if Freddie Query gets just outside that black mark that you see, up into the gray, up into the marbles, then it's going to give both these guys an excellent opportunity to get around him. Once they're in front of him, they're going to have a tough time getting, or he's going to have a tough time getting back around them.
Taking a look right there at car number 40, that's Mike Garvey. He was the pole setter today here at Lakeland, and he's had a very fast car throughout the evening. That's the Coors Light Monte Carlo that he's driving there. A beautiful looking race car.
Yes, and you can see the black mark. That's the groove of the racetrack. That's where everybody has to stay. That's where everybody has to run. You can run down under that, right on the yellow line if the race car is working just perfect. But the way guys are running this racetrack, you're running in on the yellow, you're drifting up about a car width, and then down off the yellow again. These guys all running pretty much the same line, and when it gets in lap traffic, that has to change just a little bit as Garvey starts to pick up on Gill.
Yeah, the interval is closing here, no doubt about that, as they go around some of that lap traffic out there on the racetrack. Car number 16, Hal Goodson, continues to motor around, and once again we have alluded to those precious points that all these drivers will be chasing throughout the season. The car's coming down the front straightaway. A great shot there from our speedy cam, and look at this, here comes Garvey moving right up on the back of Bobby Gill. These drivers are fighting for second and third in the Hooterade 200. We're going to take a short break. Back with more from Lakeland, Florida in just a moment. Welcome back to our continued coverage of the Hooterade 200, coming to you from the USA International Speedway. Good racing on the track right now as Bobby Gill in the number 5 is getting some intense pressure from number 40, Mike Garvey.
Yeah, Garvey's been really giving him a big challenge here over the last 2 or 3 laps. We talked about the tires on that car. Maybe they are beginning to be a problem as he's falling back from Query, and of course Garvey is right on his tail and giving him lots of problems right now.
Well, once again, lap traffic comes into play there. Jeff Foltz in the number 30 is back out on the racetrack. He was involved in that big crash earlier. A lot of guys getting their cars prepared to come back out and try to get some points. But here goes Garvey to the outside in the Coors Light Monte Carlo, making a run on Bobby Gill down the back straightaway. They're side by side going into turn 3.
And that's the first time all night long we've seen somebody make that outside move. He got a good run coming off of turn 2. He got high on the racetrack right down beside Gill. Gill gave him plenty of room. He looked like he might have started to slide out, might have made contact, but Gill started to pull down. You can see Gill, though. I think his tires are definitely going away. He's having a lot of trouble slipping and sliding, getting off the corners.
That car is getting very, very loose as they come off the turn number 2 and off of turn number 4. Car number 38 of Johnny Crow from Harrisburg, North Carolina, right in front of Freddie Query. He has never won here at this racetrack, and tonight he would love to put his name in the record books with other drivers like Mike Garvey, Scott Hansen, Freddie Campbell, Dick Anderson, Bobby Gill, and Mario Goslin, some of the former winners here in the Hooters Cup Series.
Well, Freddie Query certainly not bashful. He's still passing cars, still getting down inside and moving them over just a little bit. But I tell you what, he has consistently been the fastest guy on the racetrack. It's not an accident that he's leading. It's not an accident that he's leading by as much as he's leading, because he's been quick all night long. Some of the drivers upset with him, thought he was a little bit too aggressive maybe. But I'll tell you what, it's been aggressive because he's had a race car that he can be aggressive with.
Well, the first 29 laps was led by Mike Garvey, but from there on, we've seen Freddie Query have the fastest race car. And Larry, we talked to him earlier and to his crew chief, and you know, when they're talking about not having a sponsor and maybe not being able to run more than 3 or 4 races into this season, this has got to help Freddie Query. And if there's anyone out there that's looking to sponsor a race car, here's a guy who can go very, very fast and has a good shot at winning tonight here at Lakeland.
Well, it's obviously going to help his financial situation, because this race pays very, very well. He'll obviously have enough money. He can go to the next race, or maybe the next 2 or 3 races with the winnings here from this event.
Well over $10,000 on the line for victory tonight, and throughout the season, a $500,000 up on the line for these drivers to chase in the Miller Lite Winners Points Championship.
Yes, and here we see Jimmy Cope in that Miller Lite number 1. He's also picked up some ground. He's running very well right now.
I'll tell you, Larry, I'm very impressed with how nice many of these cars look, even late into the race. Number 72 there, Brian Ross, is continuing to race with Ronnie Burkett. We just saw that number 1 of Jimmy Cope, that Miller Lite car. Here he comes in again, and he's racing there with Dwayne Dempsey. And these cars really, really look nice.
And look at Ronnie Burkett on the outside. A pass on the outside, much like we saw just a while ago. A very nice move. Burkett started back in 20th positions. He's definitely gained more than anybody else on the racetrack right now as he moves up into the top 5.
So Ronnie Burkett running in the top 5. And Larry, this is very important because at each of the races this year, the highest finishing rookie will receive $1,000. That has to help the pocketbook.
Has to help the pocketbook. Right now, though, he's got his eyes set probably on just getting into the top 4, because I'm telling you, he's running pretty quick. He might gain another couple of spots before this thing is all over. But I don't think he's going to catch that man right there. He's really, really fast here tonight.
You know, we were talking about getting into the race earlier tonight. There were 4 provisionals to get into tonight's Hooterade 200. But it's very important to remember that the champion from 1996 has the first provisional, and the Rookie of the Year has the second provisional. Right there's the champion from a year ago, Billy Bigley Jr. in car number 28. And if the past champion does not need to use his provisional, the driver who's leading the rookie points will get that provisional. So Ronnie Burkett, if he can hold on to that position today, would be leading the rookie points as we go to race event number 2.
That's right. We saw Billy Bigley there a while ago, and he's now into the top 10 after having a little trouble earlier. But still, nobody really challenging Freddie Query, as he really has things in hand at this point in the race.
Well, his best finish here at USA Speedway has been second, as you just saw on the graphic there, and he would love to change that and put his name in the record books as he continues to go around lap traffic. Again, Harold Fair Jr. in car number 71 there, and Query's car really seems like it's on a rail. He goes around those slower cars on the inside lap or on the outside. It doesn't really matter where he puts that number 8.
Well, I think that's the whole key. If you're working well in traffic in a race like this, you can get around the cars that are running slower, then you've got a big advantage on everybody else who cannot run in either one of the 2 groups. Some guys set their cars up to run the top. Some guys set their cars up to run the bottom. Right now, Doesn't seem to make one bit of difference to him. He just points it and it goes there.
Well, he qualified 4th for tonight's event, but he has been out front the most laps, so he'll pick up those 5 bonus points for leading the most laps tonight here at USA Speedway as we're in the closing laps of tonight's Hooterade 200. Thank you for joining us here on ESPN2. Great racing action coming at you throughout the season. Again, we'll have 10 events from this Hooters Cup late model series, and we'll also have 10 events from the Pro Cup division. You can catch out that racing next week. Oh, a little bit of contact there as the number 86 car of Marty Lindley gets a nice tap from Mike Garvey. We're going to take a break. Coming up, it's the final shootout here at Lakeland. And the laps are ticking away here at the Hooterade 200. You're on board with Mike Garvey, currently running 2nd tonight. Let's go down to the pit area for an update with Rick DeBrule.
Brian Hastings, is Mike Garvey where he wants to be?
He's setting pretty good. With 20 laps to go, he's hoping for a caution to catch back up with Freddie and hopefully take him this.
The leader's been getting some lap traffic. Is that helping at all?
He's closing out probably 10th a lap compared to lap traffic, so.
Has he got enough power to make it?
Should. Dream engines are carrying it to the front.
Well, he's certainly doing a nice job getting some speed up, but I'm going to tell you, he's got to pick up more than a 1/10 of a second lap if he wants to win this, or he has to have a yellow. I think that's really what they're hoping for. A yellow flag, put him right on the bumper, give Query something to worry about. When Query's got this big of a lead, even though he's in traffic, he knows he's got a cushion. He can make a mistake. Whereas Garvey back there, he's got to really hustle, he's got to really push, and he's more likely to make a mistake at this point in the race.
Yeah, and he just got held up quite a bit by Mike Hovis from Fort Myers, Florida there in car number 39. Hovis now moves to the inside and lets Garvey go, but that's going to have to cost him a 10th or 2.
Well, you know, the guys that are running a little slower, they're aware of what's going on. They're looking in their mirrors, but still, every once in a while you get caught up in a situation like that, and it's really nobody's fault. It's just a racing incident where a guy side by side, and right now you can see right there that the 5 car, Bobby Gill, he's being held up as well. And look at this crew. You can tell they're a little bit worried. They know they're going to have to need a break to catch up.
And Larry, from the driver's seat, there's really nothing you can do about when you're going to catch that traffic.
Well, no. Bobby Gill right now, he's got a good break to get everybody drop to the bottom. A while ago, he got a bad break. That's just the way things go. You just drive as hard as you can.
And Freddie Query is now picking up some of that lap traffic. Rick DeBrule, what's going on down in the 8-car pit area?
Oh, he came down to talk to Alex Query, Freddie's crew chief and son, to find out exactly how he's doing. Well, guess what? Alex didn't want to come down from there. He said he doesn't want to jinx it. He doesn't want to talk about the chance of winning right now.
And Larry, Alex looks pretty calm, cool, and collective up there, but you know the rest of the crew's got their fingers crossed.
And I'm telling you, he's not that calm, cool, and collected either. You know, race car drivers and teams, I'm not going to say they're superstitious, but when things are going like this and when you're leading the race, you don't want to change anything. You don't want to talk to anybody. You just want to watch very intently what's happening and make sure nothing goes wrong. Because at this point, you're seeing things that aren't really there. You're hearing things that aren't really there, whether you're inside or outside the car, because you know that things are so comfortable, almost something has to go wrong. And you're just dreading that moment when you hear that noise or see that bad thing that happens. And right now, they don't want to change anything, hoping that they'll see none of those things.
You mean it actually, those noises get louder when you're leading?
They get a whole lot louder when you're in the race car, believe me, especially when the laps are winding down and when everything just seems to be going so well. You just know you can't be that good. You know that you can't be that much better than the next guy, so you're thinking something's got to happen here pretty quick.
Well, Garvey and Gill have a great race going on the racetrack, but they are continuing to lose time on the leader, Freddie Query. Here we go back to Garvey and Bobby Gill. They've got a great race for 2nd position. Here comes Gill taking a look to the inside of the Coors Light Monte Carlo. Gill down the front straightaway with a very strong car. He makes the move.
He got right on the bottom, just right on the very bottom, hold it by him, going down the front straightaway. Now then Garvey's going to go back to the inside, see if he can do it. He cannot. A while ago, Garvey was better on the outside. He ran that outside groove and got around Gill. So now then maybe he's having a problem. His crew, though, looks like they're taking things pretty calmly.
No doubt about it. They're saying, come on, man, get back up there and pass him.
Well, actually, I think that was Gill's crew, and they were saying, you're doing a great job. You just went around. We see a black car, couldn't make out who that was, but he got very high going through that corner and had to gather things up and get back down on the inside of the racetrack.
Larry, you know, earlier we were talking about tire management for Bobby Gill. It must be working out okay for him. He just made that great pass on Mike Garvey.
Well, these drivers all like the spec tire. It is a spec tire. It is made by Goodyear. They're all running the same one. Gill has run the same 4 tires the whole race. So obviously it's a good tire. you know, it doesn't seem to be a big advantage to come in and change the tires like it is in a lot of other series, which I think makes it very good. It makes it cheaper for the competitors, and you don't have to make that tire change if you don't have the pit crew that's quite as experienced as some of the other guys out there on the racetrack.
Look how hot that left front brake rotor was on number 71, Harold Fair Jr. A lot of these guys getting a lot of use out of those front brakes.
Yes, of course, he's had problems. He got in that early race incident. He's had trouble all night long, but he's still out on the racetrack trying to gain the points. Meanwhile, Freddie Query doesn't seem to be having all the problems that many of the other competitors are. He's just motoring around. You know, he just is making it look very easy as he passes a lot of these lap race cars. Nevin Jenkins in car number 3 from Hermosa, Florida. Haven't seen him on the track much tonight. A bit of damage there to the left front of that car, missing the hood. But Freddie Query goes zipping by him. Many of the drivers now are trying to figure out who they're racing against in the final rundown, because they want to be very, very careful that they don't do something silly with their race car, because they got to go right back into competition here in a week. Yes, well, they're being told by their crews where they're at. They've all got pretty good crew members. They've all got a good handle on things. But I tell you what, if you watch the way Freddie Query's running this racetrack, he's using up the racetrack very well. He's letting the race car run very loose and very free. He runs in on the bottom, he slides up to the middle of the racetrack, then he comes right down to the bottom of the racetrack again. This makes it a little bit easier on the tires when you run the racetrack in that fashion, and I'm sure that is playing a part of why he's doing it that way.
Talk a little bit about a couple of the cars that are out of the race right now, Larry. Of course, Rich Bickle went out at lap 134 after losing a motor in the terminal trucking entry, and a couple of drivers that we'll probably see as factors throughout the season. Gary Ballou and Jody Ridley, both of those cars taken out on that big crash on the front stretch. Sure, we'll see them later this year.
And that was the white flag that you just saw come out. So Freddie Query's only got one straightaway and another half a straightaway and 2 corners to go, and he's going to get the checkered flag.
First victory of his career here at Lakeland, Florida at the USA International Speedway. Here comes Freddie Query off of corner number 4. Got his hand out the window and he says, "Yeah, buddy." Mooresville, North Carolina, a neighbor of Dale Earnhardt, going to victory lane today in the first event of the 1997 USA Racing Hooters Cup Series.
He's a 5-time Concord Speedway champion, but I'm sure there's none of that as important as this victory here tonight, because I'm going to tell you, he drove a great race. He was fast all night long. Well deserved.
Well, the first victory of 1997 coming here on ESPN2. He's got to be very happy about that. And once again, that car unsponsored for tonight's race.
Yeah, and that's going to give him a few bucks to go on racing with. As we saw Mike Garvey there in the 40 car, he ended up in 3rd position. Bobby Gill came home in 2nd as he made that late race pass to go back into the 2nd position.
$12,000 goes to the victor tonight as he heads into victory circle there. The first winner again of 1997. Trophy goes on the hood, and here comes a very ecstatic crew.
Hey, man, they better be careful. They're going to fall down here as they're running in there. It's a little bit wet still from that rain we had earlier, and they want to get him in there and get him out of the race car, because that's got to be a very, very happy crew. Everybody down there jumping up and down, hugging and kissing and all that stuff right now.
I can see his smile right through that full-face helmet.
That's a crazy paint job on that helmet, too. Look at that. Man, oh, man, flames everywhere.
Once again, Freddie Query, the first winner of 1997 in the Hooters Cup Series, and I'll tell you what, that is one happy driver there as the crew comes in and says congratulations on a well-deserved victory.
Well, you can see that he's a little bit tired, but I'm going to tell you what, emotion takes over fatigue in this kind of an atmosphere. You come in, you sit there for a second, you regroup yourself, and believe me, you get real happy real fast. And we're going to see him when he jumps out of that race car.
With Freddie and his son Alex. Let's talk for just a second. Freddie Query getting a hug from everybody on the team. I got to tell you, this is an emotional victory. Freddie's hugging me. He's so happy. Earlier today, we were talking about how important this victory was going to be. You pulled it off. I mean, what's going through your mind right now?
Well, God was with us, man. I'll tell you, I drove the hell out of that thing the whole race. Yeah, you did. I got to thank Jeff Hamler, Robert Hamke, my son Alex, my wife Layden, my daughter Michelle.
Now, there were a couple comments.
Everybody that had anything to do with it. All the guys that pitted me was great.
I got to tell you, a couple comments, a couple of the other drivers, car 40, car 45, saying you were bumping up a little high. What was going on in that bumping?
I bumped them a little high. It's just hard racing, man. Next time it'll be the other way around. I was just a lot faster than they were, and they wouldn't get out of the way.
You worked hard for this one.
Yeah, I did.
Well, Rick DeBrew, you better get out of the way down there. He just may give you a hug. 45-year-old Freddie Query, the winner tonight here in the Hooterade 200. Don't go away. We'll be right back. The Hooterade 200 was brought to you in part by Hooters Restaurants, delightfully tacky yet unrefined. And by Jackaroo Barbie Sauce. If you've got regular barbecue sauce, you ain't got Jack. And by Naturally Fresh Pure Spring Mountain Water, delightfully refreshing. And Rick DeBrule is caught up with our second place finisher, Bobby Gill.
Let's talk about the race. You know, you kind of hung back, and in the end, you were duking it out big time. How was your car?
It was good. When we caught up with Freddie, we was racing pretty hard, and I think we blistered the tires on it. And, we got together going down front straightaway. I don't know if it knocked the toe end out or something on it, but it got real loose there. I thought we was having a flat on it, and so I just kind of backed off, and Mike got around me, and I found me another groove up top there, and the car started coming back on.
So you were able to pass for second at the very end there.
Yeah, I think Mike was having a big pushing problem coming off. And
a couple of the other drivers made a comment today about Freddie being pretty aggressive out there.
Well, I mean, that's his style of driving, and I mean, we got a long ways to go this year. This is the first race. There's about 22 more to go.
That's just racing?
Yeah, I mean, that was racing. I ain't got a problem with him today.
Well, that's Bobby Gill from Dalton, Georgia, in the Terminal Trucking Company number 5. He finished second today. Taking a look at the Hooterade 200 top 10 finishers. You can see where your favorite driver finished. Matt Kenseth in 4th. Moving down through there, Tim Felver. Didn't say much about him today, but he had a nice 8th place run. Dwayne Dempsey ends up 9th, and Billy Bigley Jr. with a top 10 run.
Well, Tim Felver came from 16th, so he had a very good run today.
Well, Mike Garvey was on the pole, and he picked up $1,000, but finished 3rd.
Well, at the beginning of the race, Mike, we were talking about consistency. You may not have won, but you were consistent.
Well, Rick, what we did, what we had to do, we ran good at the start. We wanted to see how fast we could run. Then we just kind of got in a cruising mode. Freddie wanted to get up in the race, so I just let him go after he both spun me. But, you know, like I said, we finished. That's what we got to do. We dropped a cylinder right there at the end. We was trying to make a run at the end, and I don't know if a plug wire burned up or what happened, but we dropped down to 7 cylinders, and Bobby got back by me, and I was worried the whole train was going to go by, to be honest with you.
But it's a good way to start out the season, all things considered?
Yeah, third's good. We came here to win. Third's okay. It's a good start. Like I said, you got to look at the big picture, and so we're in good shape going to Volusia.
Well, Larry, if you had a top 10 finish, you're in good shape for the Miller Lite National Points Championship, worth $500,000 in 1997.
You can see that Jimmy Cope in 6th. This is just the same as the rundown, of course, because this is the first race of the year. So the points are going to be exactly like the finish of the race. But here's one of the stories we didn't get to talk about. Tony Walls couldn't find an engine. He blew an engine in practice. He went around trying to borrow one. He finally did borrow one, qualified 3rd. But unfortunately, after all that trouble and all that work, he got involved in that first lap crash and was never in contention the rest of the day.
Well, he finished 29th tonight from Albertville, Alabama. Tony Walls, that's a great story, though. Spent a lot of time this afternoon trying to locate an engine and then have that great of a qualifying run. Well, also earlier today, we had a major rain delay here. Kind of kept the crowd down just a little bit, and the crews weren't quite ready to go racing. But the rain did dissipate, and we got the race in, so that's the good sign.
Well, it's one of the times of day when rain comes, when everybody gets anxious. A lot of times that will cause some of the restarts that we had earlier here tonight. Just the anticipation, the waiting around. You sit in those garages all day long when you're ready to go racing. Sometimes your nerves are just a little edgy in the start of a big race like this.
Well, if you don't like the weather in Florida, just wait a minute and it'll change. So some of the fans out there picking up some merchandise from the Hooters trailer. Certainly hope you enjoyed our coverage tonight here from the USA International Speedway, event number 1 of 1997. As we bring you the USA Racing Hooters Cup Series. It was a great event as Freddie Query picks up win number 1 of 1997. Larry, your thoughts on the overall competition?
Well, I thought it was a great race, and I think Freddie Query did a tremendous job. There were some guys mad at him out there, but in this kind of racing, you got to give a little, you got to take a little. This time he gave a little, next time he might be taking just as much. So that's just this kind of racing. I don't think there's any reason for a lot of tempers to flare. You know, the heat of the moment, things like that happen. Overall, he had the fastest race car today. He deserved to win the race. So that's just the way things go. Mike Garvey, he did a nice job, even though he ran up front all day long and finally finished third. I thought he did a terrific job, and of course Bobby Gill also did a nice job. Ronnie Burkett, I think you got to give that kid a lot of credit for coming from 20th to 5th and being the best rookie out there.
Well, that man right there, Alex Query, watched his father go to victory lane tonight as the crew cheered him on. We saw a couple of those drivers who were knocked out in that early incident. We'll have to watch throughout the season to see if they are able to rebound in this 1997 points championship chase. We'll keep our eye on guys like Gary Ballou and Jody Ridley because it is a long season. The first race is just the first on the way to the championship.
Right, and consistency is what all of these guys talked about all night long. They wanted to be around at the end. They kept running, and that's what you're going to see. These guys are in this for the long haul. This was one race. It was an important race, especially if you were up front or if you got knocked out. But in the end, if you can get the consistency, if you can be there every time, if you can come home with a few of those kind of wins like you're seeing right there, then you're going to have a great year, and that's what this whole thing is all about.
Well, there'll be 18 events in the 1997 USA Racing Hooters Cup season, and we'll bring you 10 of them right here on ESPN. The next action will be at the New Smyrna Speedway on March 8th. If you'd like to see some great racing, go check it out. Give them a call, buy a ticket. So congratulations once again to 45-year-old Freddie Query, or two-time Big Ten champion at Concord Speedway. For Rick DeBrule and Larry Rice, I'm Ray Dunlap. Thanks for joining us. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.